Hi, I am so excited to teach you about my zero impact method. But before I can teach you about my zero impact method, I have to teach you about trauma and how it is actually stored differently in the brain than other information that is stored in your brain. Okay, so this will only take a few minutes. Right here is your brain, okay? And I'm gonna cut it in half. Over here is long-term memory, and on this side, we have short-term memory, okay? So in the long term, there's all these little dots, okay? These dots are called nodes, and they store information. So think about them like file cabinets, okay? So it's like, this is a node for dogs, and it tells you about all the different kinds of dogs that there are. This is one for cars, and it tells you about all the different kind of cars there are. Make sense? Between the nodes are these pathways that connect the nodes to each other, and those are called neural pathways, okay? So that's kind of what it looks like. And then what happens is during the day, you learn something new, okay? And that new information comes into the short-term memory and it stores right here, okay? So let's say today you're gonna learn that I have a dog named Murphy, and this is Murphy in your memory right now, okay? In the short term. Now what's gonna happen is any information that's come into your brain in the short-term memory, when you go to sleep at night, you're gonna go through different stages of sleep. One of those stages of sleep is called REM sleep, rapid eye movement. Your eyes are literally going back and forth inside of your head while you're sleeping. So if you're ever watching someone sleep and their eyes are like do 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 do, it's because they're in REM sleep. Okay, so let's just pretend that you have a guy that hangs out in the middle between the short-term and the long-term memory. And what he does is during REM sleep, he takes this information and he moves it over to the long term. So he's going to be like, oh, you learned about Murphy. The node or the file cabinet for dogs is right here. So he's going to take it and he's going to move it over and he's going to store it away where it belongs with dogs. And you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to remember that I have a dog named Murphy. Okay, so it goes out of the short term into the long term. All right, then sometimes things happen like if you were giving a presentation in English class, okay, and during the presentation, people were laughing at you because you had like the biggest zit on your forehead of all time, and everyone's laughing at you, and here you are trying to like read this thing for your English presentation, and that was like the most embarrassing thing, and you felt really bad about yourself. You have all these feelings, right? Then at night, when you go through REM sleep, your filer is like, okay, it's time to move this one over, but it's so heavy and it has so much emotion and you have this negative thought about yourself and it's just like too much. Your filer's like, I don't know where that goes. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't belong anywhere that's already been made. So he leaves it there and that's where it stays. And sometimes you might have like dreams or nightmares about it because he's trying to move it over, but he's like, still don't know where it goes. Let's just put it back. Okay. And then maybe you go on to like college and you have to go and you have to give another presentation in college and you're standing up there in front of the class and it reminds you of this one and it starts to make another network, but on the short-term memory side. And then you have to do something for work and like it just starts building. So memories can attach to other memories in the short term. But these are traumas because they're being stored in the short term instead of the long term. Okay. So anything could be a trauma. You could be not invited to a birthday party and be like, oh my gosh, like I'm the only one that wasn't invited. I feel like I don't belong, right? That's a trauma. It could be the huge trauma, like the war and an explosion happens and you lose a limb. Like that's a big trauma, Okay, so traumas come in all shapes and all sizes, but the difference between trauma and not trauma is how it's stored in your brain. Okay, so what my zero impact method does is it says, all right, filer, you are not doing a great job here. We're going to take over and we're going to take this one and I'm going to ask you like 5 questions to like get it going. Be like, oh, it's time to wake up. And we're going to take it and we're just going to move it over and we're going to find where it goes and we're just going to store it over there. And we're going to do it with the next one. And we're going to do it with the next one. And every time one of them moves over, you have more confidence. The negative belief that you have about yourself, it doesn't exist anymore. Now you have a positive belief, right? So what my method does is, first of all, it identifies the traumas. It finds, you're like, okay, well, I'm struggling with this, right? I'm struggling with showing up online. Okay, maybe that's something that you're struggling with. And I'm like, okay, we find the root of what it is. We find where is this, where's the trauma that happened here? Where's the thing that's actually holding you back? I know you think it's this thing, but it actually, we're going to follow it down and it's going to be this thing right here. And we're going to take it and I'm going to ask you 0 to 10. How much does it bother you now when you think about it? And you're going to give me a number. And whatever number that is, we're going to get it down to 0. It's not going to bother you at all when you think about it. That's step 1. Not going to bother you at all when you think about it. Number 2, step 2, whatever negative belief we've identified that's associated with the thing, we're going to flip it to a positive. So you will leave our session. That negative belief will not be anymore. You will only have a positive belief about yourself when you think about that identified situation. And then the third one is trauma also gets stored in the body. So a lot of times when I ask my clients, I'm like, okay, well, when you think about the event or the situation, where do you feel it in your body? And they'll be like, oh, I feel it in my heart or my solar plexus or my throat or like the stress areas. Like they feel it sometimes too, right? So I'll be like, where do you feel it in your body? And when we're done with all of the steps, the third step is we release it from the body. Okay, so trauma isn't just like a somatic thing and it's not just a brain thing, it's both, right? So it's not being stored appropriately in your brain, which makes it a trauma, which makes it bother you, which makes you have a negative belief about yourself, which makes it be stored in the body somewhere. It's all encapsulated in the one trauma. Okay, so that's what that's the difference between like a traumatic thing and a not traumatic thing, how it's stored in the brain. And then my 0 impact method, I use those 3 steps after we identify where it actually is coming from. Then I use the 3 steps to clear it out. Take it from 0 to 10, all the way down to 0 so it doesn't bother you. Change the negative belief with a positive one and clear out the body. All right, so I hope that answers any question that you had about trauma or my 0 impact method. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always available. All right, have a great day.